How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac. I'm here with a video on Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. And this isn't going to be me reviewing it. It's going to be me giving my first impressions of it because I just need time to process what actually happened in this movie. And I'm going to give a spoiler-free review at first, and then I'm going to go into the spoilers so I can talk more in depth about it. But I'm gonna release my review on it later on when I'm able to watch it on streaming services so I can have a better and more grounded opinion on this movie, because if I just give my opinion on this now, it's gonna be wild. But regardless, I went to go watch it with my friend Reaper, freaking collaborated on the channel. We watched it. He watched it before, so this was the second time. I was going in blind, and then we came out of this, and his opinion was already solidified. I'll get into his in a second. Mine was formed, and now I'm here to talk about it, right? So without further ado, let me go into the spoiler-free opinion on this movie. And again, I want to stress this is first impressions. This isn't my final finalized opinion on this movie. Just take it with a grain of salt that it may change in the future. So, where do I even begin with the spoiler-free opinions? I guess with the my rating of it, so you can have a ground basis for how I'm gonna talk about it. This movie is the best movie I've seen this year, and probably the best movie, a superhero movie, I've ever seen. And with the praise that I've seen online when it first came out, like, oh, this movie's amazing. This is literally peak fiction. I can see why people were saying that, because leaving that movie theater, I was so hyped. And we were just talking and talking and talking about that movie, how good it was. And I can see why now, how amazing it actually is. It's the longest animated movie ever. People told it as the best animated movie ever, the best superhero movie ever, the best Spider-Man movie ever, and just one of the best movies I've ever seen, right? And I can agree with most of that. It's just crazy having to digest what I saw and now trying to explain it. One thing I can say though, I highly recommend this movie. Watch the first one so you understand what's happening. And I will say this movie is way better than the second one, or than the first one, excuse me. This movie is way better than the first one. And you're probably thinking, but the first one wasn't bad if you watched it. Or if you haven't, the first one's bad? No, it's not. It's not at all. The first one I gave it like an 8 to an 8.5. It's a great movie. It's so good that it got a sequel, right? So the fact that this sequel improves on the first movie this much, a substantial degree, to a point where I give it a 10 out of 10, which I've only done for Berserk, then it shows how much I really like this movie. It is amazing. One opinion I saw from Moist Critical, which I'm not going to go in depth about, but go check out his Spiderverse video if you want to hear it, was that this movie can be for anybody, and it is. All you have to do is just watch the first movie, and even if you don't, you can always watch that second movie, then watch the first one, and then if you really like the series, rewatch the second one. It's up to you how you handle it, right? But this movie is genuinely for anybody. You don't have to know who all the characters are. They don't hinge on them. The main plot hinges on the main character, and you learn the story about him through the movie. So you don't need to worry about, like, oh, I need context. No, this movie does good enough legwork to provide that for you, and you're gonna be fine. It literally is for anybody. It's not a kids movie. It can be watched by kids, but it can also be watched by adults, by Spider-Man enthusiasts, by comic enthusiasts, or by people who just want to watch a good movie, you know? And animation might turn people off from it, but it's so expressive and so beautiful and so unique. And considering how the first movie was animated, the fact that the second movie improves on the animation like tenfold goes to show that it only got better. I only have positive things to say about this movie. And the fact, again, that I gave it a 10 out of 10 proves that. So, again, I recommend this movie to anybody. If you haven't watched the first one, again, I recommend watching that one first, because this movie has amazing characters, amazing story, amazing soundtrack, beautiful soundtrack. I'm gonna re-listen to it because, oh my goodness, it's so good. You have amazing chef's kiss animation. You have ambiance, the storytelling, all of it. It was great. Genuinely great. 10 out of 10 movie. No doubt. I thought that John Wick 4 was going to be the best movie this year, to come out this year. I was wrong. I was genuinely wrong. And it hurts to say because I really like John Wick 4. But Spider Man Across the Spiderverse is the best movie this year and one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I can't wait for the third movie. I'm just telling you how I feel about the movie. And while I hope that you want to watch the movie, I'm not here to sway you over. I'm just here to give you my first impressions of what I saw. And it was great. But regardless, I'm gonna go into the spoiler review now. This is your warning. Do not go into this. I beg you, please do not go into the spoiler review if you have not seen this movie. It is beautiful if you go in blind. Please do not ruin that for yourself. So I'm not gonna go deep into the story of this movie like I usually do. I'm just gonna like skim over it and just talk about things and things that for the most part I really liked. So here goes the spoilers, right? So this movie picks up with Gwen instead of Miles, where we see her version of her universe. And Peter wasn't like a mentor Peter, it was a teenage Peter like her. And so through sheer freak accident and terrible emotional vulnerability, her Peter dies, right? And so her dad, Officer Stacy, thinks that she killed him, that Spider Gwen killed him. And so he's been hunting her for the longest time, and she's had to deal with that guilt and that burden because she didn't kill him, but her father doesn't know because she doesn't tell him. And so when she tells him during one of the invasions from somebody who came through a portal, thanks to the collider from the first movie, he doesn't take it very well at all. And so he tries to arrest her. Luckily, Miguel and Jessica Drew are there, so they take her with them through a portal. And then we get Miles' story, right? So Miles is still in Brooklyn. He's been Spider-Man for a year and a half, I think. And he's doing great. He's trying his best, but he's having problems with his parents. Because even though they love him, he can't tell them his secret because that'll also put them in danger, but also they probably wouldn't understand. You gotta remember, Miles is a 15-year-old, he's a sophomore, so he's not gonna be the best at understanding these emotions and trying to explain them to his parents. He still needs to grow and develop, right? Funnily enough, though, he has gotten a lot taller, and I love that because you can notice that he looks lankier compared to what he used to before. He's not the kid that he used to be, but he's still a kid. And so his parents are having a meeting about college with one of his professors, and he shows up late because he sees one of the villain in the spot, right? And the spot is important to this movie, and I'll explain later why. He shows up late, and they have this whole meeting about it. The teacher tells them, "Yo, your son's lying to you. Something's not right about it. Just try to figure out why." And so, Miles and his dad, unknowingly, by the way, work together to try and find the spot. He gets away, and we learn more about the spot. He's actually an assistant for Doc Ock, at least a female Doc Ock that was in this universe. And the reason he turned into the spot, it basically is just like creating holes in space time to displace something, right? So imagine you make a hole right in front of you, a black hole, and then a couple feet away from it, another hole opens up, and you put your arm through the first hole. The other half of your arm is going to appear through the other hole. That's basically how it works. And so he was there when the collider set off the second time, and that's how he got all the spots around him. He lost his face. He's literally just an anomaly. And so the spider that bit Miles in the first movie is also an anomaly because it's not supposed to be there. The spot transported that spider to this universe and it bit Miles. So Miles was never supposed to be Spider-Man. It happened by accident. The same way that it happened for Peter, but this is multiversal theory, so it works differently with Peter, right? So Miles is basically sent to go get a cake for his father's promotion, promoted from a lieutenant to a captain. and he's a police officer. If you remember, if you watched the first one, if you haven't, then there you go. But Miles gets the cake, but he finds the spot again, and he's not able to. So he messes up the cakes when he gets there, and he's super late to his own father's promotion. And his mom and dad are super upset because he's not telling them anything. And so they blow up on him, and he's about to say something back, but then he realizes it's not worth it. He's just gonna hurt his parents, and he doesn't want to do that because he loves them and they love him. So he's just like, whatever, I'm just gonna go. And then they ground him for 2 months. Scratch that, 3 months. And so he's in his room. He's listening to a James Blake song that's on the soundtrack because I remember looking at the track list. And then Gwen shows up because if you remember the multiversal thing with Jessica Drew and Miguelito. And so she's in Miles's room, and she's just like, "Yo, let's go hang out." And then because he's grounded, he's like, "I can't." But then he's like, "But Spider-Man can." And then they go, right? They're having a fun time. They're swinging around. But Gwen is there for a different purpose. She's there to plant some bug so that Miles's timeline can be observed by Miguel, right? And so they go back to his room. They go to the party since the party's still going on. And his parents notice that he's with a girl. She is older than him by like a year and a half. She's probably like 17 and a half, close to 18. So they do comment on that. And it's kind of funny, but it is a little concerning if I were a parent too. They go to talk to her. They see that Miles is trying to chat up, having a good time. And then she has to go because she gets a notice from Miguel and all of them. And Miles and his mom have a great conversation. One thing that I love about this movie is the parent talks that Miles gets, and just the people older than the main characters that try to give advice to him and to other characters. It comes from a genuine place, right? And it's not there to be like, here, I know everything. I don't. But I'm trying to give you what I know from my experience. So just take it with a grain of salt, right? I love the character building in this movie, right? Because Miles is an adult yet he hasn't found his place. He hasn't fully developed and realized who he is. Neither has Gwen, right? And so I love how they play with that and how they can make mistakes. And even though Miles hasn't made many, they still come to bite him. And seeing how he reacts to those and acts upon that is nice and it's interesting. It's cool. But back to his mom, right? She's basically being the sympathetic one, and she tells him like, "Yo, go have fun, go with her, and just be careful, all right? Because I don't want the kid that's in you to be corrupted and to lose who he really is, right? I believe in you, Miles. I know that you can do whatever you can because you have unlimited potential. Just be careful, all right?" And so he chases after Gwen. Gwen sees the spot like after he disappears, she sees what he did, and now they realize that he's going through different multiverses because he's using his spots to go to other dimensions and go to the company that Kingpin was using during the first movie, right? I think Amtech. I think that's what they're called. Going to different dimensions that have that company and getting their technology and making a weapon that can basically give him unlimited spots, right? So he goes to a dimension where Manhattan is his Moonbutton. So this is where we get the Spider-Man India version of Spider-Man, and he's pretty cool. I really like him. He has so much personality, and every Spider-Man has that personality of like we crack jokes, we have a good time, but deep down we have that pain that molded us into this person, right? And so he has his girlfriend. He has the that girlfriend's dad, who's a police officer. Usual stuff. And Miles, Gwen, and then another Spider-Man, the Spider-Man Punk, who's British. He shows up, and they're basically here to stop the spot, right? Jessica Drew knows what's going on, so she's showing up soon, and they fail. They fail because the spot manages to basically get all the spots, and now he's an eldritch horror. And the reason why he's doing this is because he's gonna take away what Miles has, what Miles cherishes, the same way that Miles did it for him, right? But on a bigger and grander scale. Miles said that he was a villain of the week, and the spot's basically gonna prove he isn't. In no way, shape, or form he is. And so he disappears, and that's basically the rest of the the last time that we see him for this movie, because the rest of the movie isn't about him. It's about Miguel O'Hara, right? The geneticist. And he's a Spider-Man from Spider-Man 2099, right? After the Spot leaves, Mumbattan, or I'm so sorry if I'm butchering the name, but Spider-Man India's place gets completely destroyed basically, and they all have to team up to save lives as many as they can. And Miles does something very crucial. He saves somebody that was supposed to die, and it was Spider-Man India's girlfriend, her dad. He was supposed to die, right? Just like how Uncle Ben died, or Officer Stacy is supposed to die, or people like that, right? Like somebody dies so Peter or any Spider-Man grows and develops, right? And so Miles saved them. And Gwen tried to stop him because she knew that this was important. This was supposed to happen. But he didn't let it happen because Miles is Spider-Man. At the end of the day, Spider-Man is meant to save people, save lives. That is the core foundation and value of Spider-Man. And so trying to stop him from doing that violates the Spider-Man inherent code, like not a code, but more or less the value that I was saying earlier. So when he gets taken to Miguel and where all the Spider-Men are, we basically learn that there's a whole group of Spider people, like a bunch of them, a whole facility of just Spider people from different universes and dimensions with the same watch that Gwen has. And they're all basically meant to restore the balance of the universe because of the collider that happened in Miles' universe, right? And what we learned from Miguel is basically a Peter B. Parker's back, and he has a daughter. Her name is Mayday Parker. She's also a Spider person. We have Spider Ham. He's still in the movie. We saw and he's Penny. We saw Penny as well. We see all these Spider people. We saw Childish Gambino. He was the Prowler in one of them. We saw Andrew Garfield. We saw Tobey Maguire. We didn't see Tom Holland, but we saw Ben Riley. We saw just everybody, all these different Spider-Men, right? And Miguel O'Hara being the leader of all of them, he's just basically telling Miles, like, listen, you ruined something and you're going to destroy his world because you couldn't let it happen. You disrupted the canon, and like canon is in like the canon timeline, like in GT versus Super and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. They're treating it like a comic, basically. The canon thing that's supposed to happen in someone's life versus an off-script thing, right? If you have an off-script thing happen that destroys the world, it's gonna implode in itself, basically. And it's gonna be corrupted. So that's what's gonna happen to Spider-Man India's world. But we never heard his input on it. So Miguel is just basically telling him like, "Yo, Miles, you are an anomaly, and your father is going to die. It's gonna happen, and you can't go and save him." Gwen knew about this. Peter B. Parker, Jessica Drew, Spider Punk, all these people knew about it, except for Miles. And so Miles, obviously being frustrated, is like, why? Why can't I save my father? Isn't that what a Spider-Man is supposed to do? And I bet you 100% that the Peter from Miles's world, if he was still alive, he would have saved him too. I 100%, 1000% believe in that. And so when Miguel is basically like, you don't have a choice, and he traps him, Spider Punk, because he's an anarchist, is just like, kid, use the palms because he has electricity and invisibility, right? And so this is where the memes come in with Spider-Man. Also, there's a bunch of memes like when Gwen finds that Miles has been drawing her. You also have the Spot. You also have Miguel O'Hara just beating up Miles, bro. Like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. The fighting in this movie was fire, bro. A manhunt, a worldwide manhunt in this universe that they're in is made for Miles Morales because he's going to disrupt the world by saving his father. And we see what a thing in this movie that's important, basically being sent to your universe, right? Because if you're not sent to your universe, if you remember from the first movie, you're gonna die. Basically, you're going to die. That's what the whole plot was for the first one. And so Miles clearly is not meant to be here. So he's trying to send himself back home so he can save his father, right? And so it's just this whole crazy like 20-minute scene of Miles getting chased by Miguel by Gwen, by Peter B. Parker, and like granted, those two don't want to chase him; they want to help him. But Miles feels betrayed and just genuinely hurt by the fact that they didn't tell him. And the reason why they didn't go after him is because they knew all along what Miles was. And granted, they cared, but it's just like they couldn't do anything because of the greater good that Miguel believes in instead of the Spider-Man values that Miles believes in, right? The ones that Peter taught him, the ones that Peter B. Parker taught him. And so after the chase is done, Miles manages to outsmart Miguel, and Miguel, during that entire chase, was just basically telling him like, Miles, you are an anomaly. That spider that got sent to your universe wasn't from your universe. It's from Earth 42. You are not meant to be Spider-Man. Peter was supposed to be the only Spider-Man, and he died because of you, because he saved you. You are not meant to exist. And he's just basically like grilling it into his mind, making him realize like you are not meant to have this power. And it was cruel, genuinely evil, telling that to a 15-year-old boy that was just realizing who he's trying to be. And so after Miles manages to escape from all of them, he goes back to the facility and he manages to outsmart one of the Spider Women who are there protecting it, right? And she kind of had like a little thing for Miles in the beginning, but she manages to help him when Miguel, Jessica Drew, Gwen, and Peter B. Parker all show up. And she sends him away to the universe that matches him, right? And I want to mention Ben Riley in this movie, if you remember, he's the Scarlet Spider. He is probably the funniest part of this movie because he's so edgy. I feel like it's a trait in the comics that isn't embellished, but it's like it's trying to be cool because of the aesthetic or whatever. But Ben Riley in this movie is so funny, bro. And I wish I got to see him more because he's so cool too. I really want to see more of him, bro. But regardless, Miles gets sent to the universe that we believe he's from. And Gwen gets sent back to her universe because Miguel's like, no, no more games. You're not a part of this group anymore. You're fired. By the way, Spider Punk quit, so he's not a part of the group anymore. And Peter B. Parker's just like, dang, dog, I'm gonna just go back home, bro. And so Miguel, Ben Riley, and Jessica Drew all go after Miles, right? They try to find him to stop him. And so Gwen goes to where Miles lives, right? He goes to his home and he finds his parents there. And then we find Miles, he got sent to his home, right? And they're supposed to link up. I'll explain that in a second. But Gwen is over there and Jessica finds Gwen, but she doesn't interrupt her. She understands that like she needs to go through this journey and that she doesn't agree with Miguel, but she's not gonna like outwardly betray him because she still understands what she's doing or what he's doing, excuse me. But she's gonna let Gwen do what she needs to do because she still cares for her, you know? She is kind of like a caretaker, she's doting. And so Gwen goes into Miles' room, she talks to his mom, and she's just telling him like, yo, I'm sorry, you know? I tried to protect him, but I couldn't. And so now I'm gonna go find him. I don't know where he is, but I'm gonna go find him. And I care for him. I really do, you know? And so they're just like, yo, if you find him, tell him that he's grounded for 5 months and that we love him and to come back home. And they truly believe that she's his girlfriend, right? And they probably do too. Same with like Spider-Man India, right? And Punk. So they're all just like, yeah, they're rooting for him and her. Peter B. Parker is back with his Mary Jane, the one that made Mayday. And so they're talking, they're having a nice chat, and he's just basically worried, is he going to be able to raise Mayday, right? Because he actually told Miles before he left that I had this child because of you, Miles. Helping you, mentoring you, and trying to teach you the ropes of becoming Spider-Man inspired me to have a child and try to make them, raise them to be like you. Because you're unique, you're special, you're one of a kind, and you're inspirational. So he got inspired by Miles, someone that's younger than him, to believe in the future. And it changed his life for the better, completely for the better. He has a happy marriage again. He has a child, and he's ready, you know? But unfortunately, because Peter B was talking to him, they found him. But that's like a while ago, back when it was still the Manhunt. So Gwen goes to Peter B. Parker's universe again, and she's just basically like, "Yo, it's time. We have to find Miles." And Jessica sees her leave, but she doesn't chase after her. And Ben, they since he was with them and he was camping out Miles's house, Gwen just beat him up and just sent him back to his timeline. And that's why he's not there. Miguel, he's just trying to find whatever he can. And that's basically what happens with them, right? I'll explain the end of Gwen's thing later. Miles is sent to a different timeline. That is the whole twist of the ending of this movie. Miles gets sent to Earth 42 because the spider that bit him is from this timeline. So his powers basically trace back to here. And he's here, he sees his mom, and instead of Uncle Aaron dying, it's his father. And Uncle Aaron's still alive, right? He's still the Prowler, but not in the same way. So Aaron knocks out Miles, and we learn very quickly something is wrong. So Miles is being held hostage by Aaron, and then we see something happen. Someone who isn't Aaron comes through, and they're the Prowler, right? We see that it's Miles Morales, Earth 42 version. He has braids, he's the same person, but molded by Aaron instead of Peter from Miles's timeline. And he's evil, he is sinister, he is a crazy looking person, right? And Miles is just he's terrified. This is him. This is him if Uncle Aaron lived. And this is the person that was supposed to get the Spider-Man powers. He robbed someone of their powers. They took it for themselves. He is the anomaly, right? And so back with Gwen, she's gathered every Spider-Man that was important to Miles. Peter Ham, you have Spider-Man Noir, you have Penny Parker, right? You have Peter B. Parker, you have Spider-Punk, you have Spider-Man India, you have Gwen, and you have the one that helped him in when he was getting sent to the other universe, right? The hologram one, who's in a different timeline, but she can use a hologram to basically project herself to the facility. So there's 8 people that are willing to help Miles against all the other Spider-Men, across all the other timelines or universes or whatever, against Miguel O'Hara and against the Spot. Because the grand overarching goal is Miles versus the Spot, which I am so excited to see. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to see what is gonna happen with that. But that's basically where the movie ends. Miles is trapped in Earth 42. Gwen is building an armada to find Miles. Miguel is hunting down Miles, and the Spot is looking to kill Miles' dad. And that's what's going on. And let me tell you, when I was watching this movie, it was just insane. I, from the start to the end of the movie, I was just eyes glued to the screen. I was with another person. I told you I was with Reaper in the beginning of the video. I didn't crack this, like barely below like 3 jokes. I cracked jokes in the beginning of the movie and nothing else for the rest of the movie until like the end credit scene where everybody was just like, "What? The movie is gonna be split into 2 parts?" And I just whispered to him like, they didn't know because I knew there was gonna be a sequel to this movie. I knew that was gonna happen. And then somebody from across like next to me looked over as soon as I said that. But it sucks because if you don't know, then it's like, oh man, come on, yo, I wish I could. Why couldn't it end now? And it's like it's kind of like with Dune, basically. So I completely understand it. It's just a little funny hearing the reactions from a lot of people in the movie theater, like, what to be continued? What the heck? It was just crazy. I was raving, ranting and raving how amazing Spider-Man is, and Reaper was just like, yeah, man, this movie's amazing. It is amazing. He said that I'm he's gonna have some problems if this movie isn't a praising Spider-Man Morales video. And he's right. It is. If it wasn't one, then it wasn't me making the video. I got hacked or I'm not the same me. But regardless, this movie, after talking about it again, is amazing. It is a movie that on the outside sounds like it would be just a normal movie, but you literally have to watch it. You yourself, especially in a movie theater too. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the day one viewers watching this movie. It's gotta be insane, such a crazy feeling watching this movie day one. So, this is an addendum after like 2 hours of me editing and after recording the video. I forgot to mention that Metro Boomin was the one that made the soundtrack to this movie. I don't remember who made the first one. I thought it was him, but it seems like it isn't. But I just want to say that above the fact that this movie is just an overall improvement to the first one in every single imaginable way, the soundtrack is also a testament to that statement because the soundtrack just sounds so good. Even though you have Sunflower in the original one and What's Up Danger and just memorable songs like that, this soundtrack just goes crazy and it's so good. Metro Boomin spazzed on this, bro. It's awesome. From heroes and supervillains to this. Oh my gosh. I didn't like the way I ended the video, so I'm just gonna redo it. This movie's amazing. I really enjoy this movie. It's a 10 out of 10 movie for me. Not just because it's a really good improvement on the first movie, but it was just encapsulates what Spider-Man is, right? Not sacrificing the fact that Spider-Man is meant to help people. And even though this movie is on like a crazy, grandiose, amazing scale, it still keeps that core value intact and it's the biggest conundrum in the movie. What Miles has to contend with has to deal with that point of Spider-Man. And so I love that. Putting that aside, I really hope that people watch this movie because it is awesome. More people should watch it. And I can't wait to see what the third movie is about, how it's going to continue. Because just like Infinity War to Endgame, this movie has the potential to be even better than this one, and that's crazy to me. I don't know how many numbers there are after 10, so I don't know how high I could rate it after that. But regardless, thank you all for watching. I hope y'all enjoy. I'm gonna talk about this movie again once it comes back to streaming services, and I rewatch it so I can get my full, unfiltered, after having time to process what I watched, review on it. So then hopefully look forward to that. But I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you all for watching as always. Just know that I always appreciate the support, the viewers, whether you're subscribed or not. Just know I really appreciate you. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.